All right. Hey, fellow seekers. So in this episode today, we get to speak with Bill McKenna. He's an author, a speaker, a trainer, a facilitator, and he's also the founder of something called Cognomovement. So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had the experience of something traumatic happening inside of your life? Could be big, could be small. But just after that traumatic event, did you notice some kind of a pain or a symptom show up inside of your body? Well, that's what we're going to address. Bill says that the body will express the emotions that we cannot process. And in this interview, he talks about Cognomovement and how, using Cognomovement, we can address those emotions that we cannot process and how those emotions affect our body on a very real physical level. So sit back, relax, and let's jump right into this episode with Bill McKenna. Bill, I am so grateful to have you on the show. You and I got to spend some time working through was on my right shoulder. I had like a frozen shoulder. It was extremely painful, and I thought that I had torn something serious in there. You worked through it with me, and that day my shoulder was at, I would probably say like a 7 or an 8. And I really thought something was torn. I was thinking surgery, and it had been that way for, I would guess, probably about 3 weeks. I was just talking to my wife about it like that the day before, saying I should probably go in. And we worked through it. It was at a 7 or 8. It dropped down to like a 5. Like, I think we went through it. It was like, what was it, like 2 or 3 times? And that after we were done, the pain level was down to about a 1. And within 2 days, it was completely gone. Like, I was able to go in and bench press more weight than I've been able to do since that started, and it felt great. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. And so my mind is, I can't say that it was the Cognomovement, but what I can say is that was one heck of a coincidence that we worked through it, the pain level dropped, and within 2 days it was gone. So why would somebody want to try Cognomovement? I mean, other than what I just talked about, but like, what have you seen? What is it that drives people to want to use Cognomovement?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to work with you. And
yeah,
when I think when we started with you, only thing I was working on was emotional things. But I had seen so many things happen over time, crazy things that when you mentioned the shoulder, I'd never worked on a shoulder in the past. That was just, nobody had come to me with a frozen shoulder with this. But one of the things that I realized is that we really weren't working on the shoulder. What we were working on is a connection in your brain, your mental acuity and your stress levels. And we had kind of this methodology to make connections in your brain. And with that, that somehow, some way, the body relieves its stress. So I have we actually have some testing, which I'll show you of how some of the tests that we've done from a scientific point of view. But this entire thing started kind of out just as a test. I had a theory about something. I had a theory about the possibility of helping somebody to process an emotional issue, and I just tried it out. I had a friend. I knew he was suffering, and I said, I don't know what's going on with you, but all I want you to do is just say the color you see. And I had this ball, this type of thing that I developed, and I just started throwing the ball left, right, and what I did is I had him focus on the issue, and within a few minutes he had this amazing heat in his around his belly button, and he was sweating profusely, and I'm just throwing a little ball back, and he's sweating bullets. And then a few minutes later, he was like, "Oh my God, Bill, I'm going to have a heart attack." And I was like, "No, you're not going to have. Just keep focused on the problem." He was like, "Oh God, I'm going to hook it." And I was like, "It's okay. Just keep going, keep going." And then a few minutes later, he started choking, and then his head hurt, and then it went. It was like a 10 to a 0, and I was like, and he said, "I don't know how to describe this, but I just don't feel that way anymore." And it's the strangest thing because it was his whole life, right? And all of a sudden, it's like, I can't access the feeling anymore. He just couldn't feel it. And then there was this weird kind of thing that went through his body and with different sensations at different points.
Yeah.
And so I was like, really? Did that really happen? And I was witnessing it there. And anyway, so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of it. But there have been, when this started, I was like, holy cow, that worked. And I knew certain things. I knew the right-hand side of the brain, it sees three-dimensional objects in time and space. And I knew the left-hand side of the brain sees colors and symbols. I knew that. And I also knew that when you cross across the center line of the body, with foot or hand, you force data across the corpus callosum, the center line of the brain. You have logic, creative, right? Sides of your brain. You're forcing data from logic to creative and creative to logic. So the stress lives over in your left-hand side of your brain. That's the predominant area for stress. So if all of a sudden I'm forcing data, right? Stress is some thought, my finances, my health, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, whatever. It forces data across this other area which doesn't have that. And this has a creative side to it, and it sees things you don't on the logic side. So most people are kind of more logic or more creative.
Right.
And we're basically just kind of forcing a higher percentage use of the brain, this mental acuity aspect, and also a de-stressing aspect. So anyway.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
If I could interject something here, and what I want, this may or may not be applicable, but I just find it interesting because there's been a lot of work, and I can't recall, Jim Fadiman and Stanislav Grof, they did a lot of work with non-ordinary or holotropic states is what they called them, and that was through certain types of breath work or through things like psilocybin or other psychedelics. And one of the things that they found was that when people were in these states, they were able to access one of the last tests, the true tests that were done by Fadiman was he took a room full of engineers and scientists, and these were people that were doing really big things. And they all sat down with a very significant problem, something they had been working with. And they all took different ranging amounts of psychedelics, and they came out of that test. There were massive jumps. I mean, there were breakthroughs in technology and breakthroughs in theory with that session. And what they've shown with psychedelics and holotropic states is that the brain starts communicating in a different way. So like what you're saying, when you force the right and left hemisphere, or not force, but when they start communicating, all of a sudden there are new ideas, new creative ways to approach a problem. So when you talk about that, that's kind of like where my brain went to. So when you do that for a personal level, like your own problems or your own stresses or your own emotional things, I can see how getting the right and the left hemisphere to communicate through the use of this thing inside of our reality, bouncing it back and forth, that's amazing. So you're basically accessing, like, looking at things from a different perspective. Anyway, I love that, and I think that's extremely powerful.
Yeah. There's, I want to blurt it all out because there's so much more. It started off kind of with a basic movement, and the damn thing worked, but it took about 15 minutes. And then we started to find out more and more. And things, it's kind of like a connect the dot, where I should have figured it all out immediately. I kind of like hit my why didn't you know this? Why didn't you figure? You knew certain things. You should have connected the dots. But, basically we have now a collective, we have all these users of it, and people come in and say, hey, by the way, I tried this, or, why don't we, there was a master NLP practitioner, Liz Larson, who I knew about eye positions and I used them, right? So you're an NLP practitioner too, right? And
Yeah.
so eyes up one direction, your visual creation, and visual remembering, right? And then you had your auditory, and you have your kinesthetic, and your, all kinds of different positions create different things. So when you lose your keys, where are my keys? Well, look over here and it activates that part of the brain, and then you remember where your keys are, right? So, but it might shift, right? Mine may be remembering over here, but yours is over here. It could be either. When I look down, I connect with emotions. And when I look up, I disconnect. I utilize this, I'm at a wedding or something, and I feel, you're feeling it. You're like, don't cry, just look up, and it disconnects from the emotion, right? So you can practical uses, right?
Right.
I'm into very, very practical stuff that works.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with this knowledge, right, of these eye positions, we figured out, what? Start in a different position instead of just, one side to the next or randomized, all over the place. You start low, and we do the exercise, and then we go higher, and we do the exercise. And what happens as you're focused on, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say, you had a betrayal, horrible betrayal by a family member, and you just can't get over it. You have all kinds of experiences in that betrayal. Some of it's auditory, some of it you visually remember it, some of it you feel it, there's all these different aspects. But with incorporating the different eye positions, we end up crossing data across the center line of the brain for different aspects, my hearing, my visual, these sorts of things. And so the time went from 15 minutes down to 5.
Wow.
It ended up going much more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess that kind of describes a little bit about how Cognomovement works. Here's something I want to touch on is that, like, when we first started talking, I started talking about a physical thing with my shoulder. And then what you said is, yeah, there was the physical aspect of the shoulder, but what we were approaching was more like emotional things that I was dealing with. And I think that, with where we're at right now, there's a lot of people that have already made this shift, but what we're realizing, and what I think this kind of rests on, is the fact that most of our physical issues that we deal with can, and more often than not, start with some sort of emotional thing that we've been dealing with. When was it that this is kind of a little sidetrack, when was it that you started making this connection? I mean, can you talk a little bit about your journey to developing Cognomovement?
Well, first of all, our bodies will express for us the emotion we can't process. And this is true for me and you and everybody, yeah. Right? This is just simply how it is. We don't listen to what's going on, and then we ignore it, or we stuff it down like, I'm not going to feel that way. I'm stronger than that, that sort of thing. And eventually it expresses, in a back pain, in a headache, in a neck pain, all kinds of things. And I demonstrate this for people, in real time. I have them say, okay, who's got who's got a problem in their spine. And, they'll say, oh, okay, I've got, somebody raises their hand, it's severe, right? They're like, oh, it's about an 8 or a 9, where they can barely walk or breathe or those sorts of things. And so what I did is simply to get them to realize something that's true, but it's a different perspective. And as soon as they see the different perspective, then it's like that, the pain goes away. It's simply just a perspective. So, that is our one of the, kind of core tenets that I figured out is there's never a time that our body is not affecting our mind or our mind is not affecting our body. Mm-hmm. So I can approach this from the body's perspective and just say, okay, focus on the shoulder, and put all of your attention there and how bad it sucks, and then this sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Okay, the shoulder hurts, and that will actually unlock the emotional thing. Or I can go at it, unlock the emotional thing, and then the physical can be affected. So it's mind body, and one's affecting another. And
I'm curious for me it was the shoulder. Do you find that when people are dealing with certain areas of their body that there seem to be like a correlation to a type of emotion or a type of trauma that leads to that?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So I did a video, it's on YouTube. It's an interview. It's called Spine Hacks. It's basically how your emotions can fix your spine issue, and so there's for free on YouTube. You just Spine Hacks, Bill McKenna. I think Regina Meredith. I done an interview just specific because I wanted to get out to the world. Hey, you know what? Here you go. And a lot of people are really happy about that. But what the core of this, or the cotter pin, if you will, that you have to pull is it has to be sincere. You have to actually do the work. And yes, there is very specific language that your body has. Your body will express for you the emotions you can't process. And guess what? It's like almost the same in everybody. I have so many stories which are really fun. The first one, I'll just tell a bunch of, if I could,
yeah.
Do you mind telling some stories about stuff? So, years ago, I was afraid I was going to get fired. I was like, I knew it was coming. I was like, anyway, my hands, I didn't correlate two things, right? But my hands were so in such pain. I thought they're to the point where I had to start wearing stretchy shorts. Like I couldn't pull my pants up anymore. Wow. So I was like this. I was like, it was such pain that I literally couldn't even wear a belt or pants or anything anymore because they hurt so bad. And then, I ran into this very, very wise woman, and I was like, my hands, it's like I can't do anything anymore. And she held my hand, and she took her hand across mine. She goes, "Oh, you're very afraid. You're afraid of losing your job." Yeah. And I said, you know what? Actually, it's true. I am afraid of losing my job. She said, just go back to work and do the best you can. Commit to working as hard as you can, and let go of your fear of you've been working ever since you were 7 years old. You'll have another job, And so I was like, okay, I will just do the best I can. And you're right. I can get another job. Anyway, boop, boop, boop. I was like, what the heck? But it was like I was grasping and holding on for dear. Imagine you were trying to hold on for dear life for days to a bar, and you were like, I'm not letting go. It doesn't matter what. I'm not, that type of thing. So it expresses, that's how it's expressed. A friend, a few months later, a friend of mine goes, I'm having a lot of problems, shifting the gears because my hands hurt so damn bad. And you said your forearms hurt too? Okay. Are you afraid of losing your job? So it goes like that. But very specifically,
That's interesting, though.
yeah, your body is kind of almost literal.
Yeah.
And and I always know when I got something on the run. I work with people on, for example, there was a woman who I worked with, and she couldn't walk. I mean, she was literally crying walking upstairs, and she said her hip hurt real bad. But I didn't address that. I said, okay, your hip hurts bad. Okay. What's going on in your life? And she talked about her husband, and she is, well, I don't know how old, but it was, pushing up in 70s or so.
Mm-hmm.
And after a lifetime, her husband, she's thinking he's going to leave her. It's like, he wants out, and he's leaving. Right. And so okay, you're afraid of him leaving and your support and everything. So I want you to feel the fear. So here's what kind of my discovery is right now. Everybody is pushing the fear away. It's like, no, I'm stronger than this. I can't feel the fear. No. Right.
Yep.
But I had her feel the fear. Like we worked with you on things, and we just had you feel the feeling.
Yep.
Completely. And not avoid it. You're not wrong for it. Feel it, and then do the exercise. Anyway, I'm having her do the exercise. Next thing you know, all of a sudden she says, my hip doesn't hurt, but my lower spine is on fire. It hurts so bad. Okay, keep going. Just feel the feeling. Your husband's going to leave you. You're going to be destitute and out on the road, and you're going to be in a hobo camp. Yeah. It's over. It's all you're gonna be destitute with sores on your body, and it's just gonna be suck. And and then worked with her. Tick 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 tick. Gone. It was gone. And she's up there just walking upstairs, walking down, feel my hip, and she lost her fear of her husband leaving.
Yeah.
She just, it's like, oh, he's going, I'll be fine. He go out and whatever he does, but I'm not afraid of him leaving.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, there's, the stories just simply abound with that. Yep. The body. So, maybe if I share some information with you, would it be possible if I can share?
I would love that. Yeah, let's go ahead.
It was our discovery basically is that you have this bilateral exercise, and that with this there's an increase in athletic performance. So I have so many stories about this. People that I'll go into a gym and just do it for a couple minutes with a person, and with this kind of balancing of hemispheres, I go and ask them what their max is. Let's say it's a pull-up, and they can only do 10, and do it for a couple minutes, and now they're doing 13, 14. It's crazy performance. We had a marksman who ended up moving from the entry level all the way up halfway to the very top level. We're talking sponsorship, right? In just 6 months or so. Is performance. People don't even move a couple of grades in a lifetime, right?
Wow.
But he's able to do it. Emotional amnesia, we had talked about that, kind of the effect where people have this emotional amnesia, and I haven't even talked to you about it before, but a craving amnesia. I was in the grocery store and I saw all the ladies magazines, and I walked through, and they all had Get Your Beach Body Now and this type of thing, and the grapefruit diets and this diet and that diet. And I was like, gosh, I wonder if I can do something to help them. And I just had them feel, the first one was Coca-Cola, and I had them to feel the feeling of enjoying the Coca-Cola. This particular one, it was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. I had her enjoy the Coca-Cola and do the exercise. and she felt this feeling in her belly button, and then it moved to her throat, she felt, and the craving went from a 10 down to, a 5. She kept going, and then it went right to a 0. And then, later on she tasted it, and it just didn't taste the same anymore. So it kind of lost its luster.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting with it kind of desensitizes you, and that type of thing we see over and over. I told the story of how I kind of came up with it, but there was a couple things that I thought would be really interesting to share with you, and that is that there is no need to talk. There's I didn't when I talked to you about things that you needed to work through,
Yeah.
I didn't even talk to you about, you don't need to tell me and be vulnerable about the issue.
Yep.
I just need you to feel it. And when we did, so that works really well for kids and stuff, because they don't know, they just feel stuff, they can't even express it, or people don't want to admit something, just
Yeah.
feel it, and it goes away. And it's a kind of a new way of attacking. I've already shared with you, it's a cross body
Right.
and exercise, and that on one side of the we have here, the right side's occupied with the ball, and the left side is occupied with the colors and symbols. And this shows you kind of where your auditory, your kinesthetic, your visual, the different positions of your eyes, and kind of how that is going to force that part of the brain into activation. So one of the things that we realized is that your thoughts are for your head and your feelings are in your body, and one will stimulate the other. But if you're trying to clear out a big problem, you have to clear both. And Cognomovement does that, and it appears as an actual sensation in your body as you're doing this, is you really actually feel it. Maybe, I know we worked on some other things with you, and
Yeah.
remember, maybe you could share what you felt in your body when we did it?
Yeah, so from this was this was a while ago, so getting real clear, but what I do remember is, so one of the things that I wanted to work on was brain fog. Sometimes I've dealt with brain fog in the past, and I feel like I've made a lot of progress, but I wanted more progress. Who doesn't? So when we started talking about it, if I remember correctly, you had me associate with the way that it feels, and I definitely felt it inside of my head, and I even felt a little inside of my chest. It was almost like a heaviness. And as we were going through it, so I was associated to that feeling and associated to the feeling inside my head. And as we went through it, the heaviness that I felt inside there, it just seemed to vanish. And I remember after we'd gone through it once or twice, you asked, well, how does it feel now? And I couldn't even identify, like, it vanished. Like, it wasn't there anymore. So that's what I remember from going through it with you.
Yes, correct. So the feeling will leave the physical body, and also the emotions will decrease. So you two positions. So my question is, specifically, we'll just use this one as an example, is how'd it go? And now it's been a month or so later. Have you noticed, if you look back in time, do you feel this exact same instance and level of this kind of fog, or is there any changes?
Honestly, that level of brain fog that I dealt with, no, I haven't experienced it since. Yeah, I mean, I got sick and I experienced something similar, but that's a fever, so I can't put it on that. So no, I haven't experienced that brain fog since we went through that process.
So here's, I want to point something out,
Mm-hmm.
is because I see this repeatedly, is that when you do this, right, like, you literally forget. Like, you probably had not thought about your brain fog since until right now when I asked you, because it was literally just kind of gone.
Yeah.
Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So this happens to everybody. And, we have so many amazing things happen to people, and literally they don't come back and say, hey, you know what happened? And it made the realization that I finally had was the life issue for a person. Once it is gone and they don't feel it anymore, they literally forget. They may have spent their entire lifetime on it, and then poof, it's gone, and then they're like, oh, they don't even remember. So this is the effect. I was telling somebody the other day, when I used to, I brought up Catholic and everything, and the Bible was saying, and there was 10 lepers, and he cured them all, and then one leper came back and said thank you, and I kind of thought, hey, that those lepers are real jerks, but it wasn't until recently I was like, you know what? It's not the lepers weren't jerks. They literally were cured and healed, and they forgot. They walked away. They just literally, that's how fast it happens. You forget. They're not jerks. They just forgot.
Huh.
So, yeah. So anyway, this is also some other things that we figured out is changing your physical position. So with a little bit of studying around neurological stuff, when you change a position, you see a new perspective. So we actually are having people to change positions as they do the exercise. I think we did that with you as well.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. And the reason that we do all this is that it depends. You're stimulating a ton of mental, brain activity. You have cells that are called place cells in your brain. That means it knows where everything is at in the room right now. You could probably get up out of your chair and walk to the kitchen with your eyes closed because your brain remembers, right, where everything is.
Right.
So the place cells in your brain they're part of a complex network. When you fire, for example, I catch the ball over here, and it knows it's part of this complex network. It goes, and then over here, it's firing all kinds of different places in your brain and part of this complex network. Your head position, there's boundaries, there's a grid in your brain. All these things exist within your systems. And the way we do the exercise, it stimulates the heck out of your brain when you're doing it. It's very, very, it appears kind of simple at first, but there's one hell of a lot going on. And with that, you get these amazing where when you focus on an issue, right, whatever the issue is in your life, connections are all made, and new paths. One of the things that we were able to actually figure out is that I knew people were having effect, right, in their body, but I had no proof of it. I was like, you know what? People are telling me, like you, right? You felt it in your chest.
Right.
It's like, I don't know what that is. It's in my chest. Or you start choking, or you feel like you're going to throw up. Or I feel pressure in my head. Well, it was amazing. I ran into some technology. I think it's the University of Prague. There's a professor, Kronikov, out of Russia that developed this. And what it is that with your fingertips, have you ever heard of Carillion photography?
Yeah.
Where a picture of your energy field?
Yep.
Okay. So there's this guy, his name is, like I say, professor over there, PhD. He was able to combine the Korean fingertip acupuncture
right.
with Carillion photography. So he figured out, okay, this part right here on the finger, through the Koreans, they know that this is, let's say the right eye. And then, over here is, whatever, or something, whatever it might be, right? And every single fingertip is a different kind of energy center or meridian.
Wow.
And with the amount of energy that is actually showing up or lack thereof, they were able to map the entire system. So this is something that was known in the Chinese culture, right? For millennia, they've been doing acupuncture for all kinds of things. They stick a needle in your ear, and then all of a sudden a woman has her period. It's like, what? or it could be many things, right? Your back stops hurting. What is that? So I ended up going through a whole training process on this. They call it a bio well, and the things. This is amazing. But the things that we saw, and I remember when I talked about my friend and the things, he was hot in the belly, and then he was going to have a heart attack in his throat and everything. Well, pretty much most people experience these on different levels. The more stuck the thing is, the more emotional it is, the more kind of it expresses in your body. But one of the things that we saw was that your energy systems that they've known about, these are energy centers. This particular woman right here, she had a severe betrayal from a family issue. And when we did the exercise, she felt pain here and some pain here. And then she also started choking. And it happened kind of one after the other. But these are the befores, and these are the afters. So what happened is these energy centers have something to do with different aspects of your life, which is a whole kind of topic, and it is kind of how I was able to figure out, if you come to me and you have pain adjacent your belly button, in your lower spine.
Yeah.
How I know, most likely, not 100%, but most people, it's a blood relative that's being a jerk, of some kind, and you're like, they're like, the family member, or at the very base of the spine, that the person, when they have pain there, it's related to financial fears and or survival fears, like there's myself, I have cancer, or someone else that I love, their life is threatened in some way.
Right.
And these areas pinch down, and then you end up expressing as pain. So with new realizations that it goes away. That's one method of doing it. The other is just to focus on you're afraid of, you're going to go bankrupt or something, and feel it, and just feel the fear of the bankruptcy, and you do the exercise, and then, as the fear goes away and releases, so too does it release out of the body. So this is kind of how it works dynamically. Here's another example, and from the BioWell. This woman had a fear of falling. So the story here with this particular woman is that she had busted her femur on the right side. It was specifically right here, and this is years prior. And we're talking about, this woman was in her 80s, and she busted her femur really bad. Ended up in the hospital. Now, the caretaker for this woman, she was, ended up very afraid because this particular person kind of was taking out her frustrations on the woman.
Uh-huh.
They were related, right? And so her fear of falling was, holy cow, don't put me in the care of that person, I will end up back in their care. And it's like, one of like a bad horror film of being tortured, right?
Right.
So it's like, so she literally holding on to things, walking along, because it's like, you're going to end up in a horror film if you fall down. Well,
wow.
I had her simply to focus on her fear, and this is after 15 minutes. 15 minutes, her fear went away. And this is what happened after 15 minutes of working. Not only wasn't she afraid anymore, literally walking around, not trying to hold on to anything, boom, it filled in.
Wow. Yeah, so and it seems like there's a lot more uniformity, not just in the area of the femur, but around her entire body.
Oh, yeah, because it affects all of you, right? Have you ever been in extreme fear?
Yeah.
It affects all of you.
Yeah.
And you say, so you have this kind of, shall we say, energy, right? Which we can now really scientifically measure, and you'll affect it really quickly, which makes sense, right? So let's just say you go out you're going to do, let's say you're a sports, you play some sports, you're a sprinter or something like that. Everybody has all kinds of different feelings and fears. And when you get aligned, all of a sudden, see how your energy is? You're congruent, if we will. It makes sense why somebody would get athletic performance.
Right.
If your energy is aligned, your left-right brain is aligned, and your energy is aligned. So the concert of those things is basically helping people to have incredible breakthroughs in athletic performance.
That's awesome. I can see how. So if one of the things that we hear about is, if somebody's feeling a lot of like fear, for instance, or in a specific area, like that's trapped energy. That's energy could be used for creation or for whatever, and it's being trapped by that emotion that the person isn't able to process. So like when you're saying you showed the body being back into what's that word, homeostasis. Yeah, homeostasis. That energy is freed for the use of whatever, whether it's physical movement or it's creation or just overall happiness. I imagine that that's a significant shift for somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
So now you've been working. You have been working, providing seminars, teaching people how to use the Cognomovement ball.
Yes, we've been. I just got done with a 3-day seminar in Massachusetts. We've got another one coming up December 7th to 8th in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have another one in Los Angeles on the 14th and 15th of December.
Wow.
Where we have a kind of multi-day events where you bring in, I have the people bring in their worst list, bring in all of your emotional issues,
yep.
right? And all of your physical stuff, and we'll work through those lists.
Yeah.
So they actually utilize it on themselves, and they work together to see what ends up happening as these releases. It's truly transformative because you may have found yourself in your life fighting your feeling. You're trying, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel this way, but I do. I can't help how I resent them because you don't understand what they did or, what I have to live with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So we have them just feel that. And because it ends up releasing, right, people have new experiences. And there's just the unexplainable, for example, there's one woman who came in and she had family business and working in the family business, and certain people that were very hostile there, and all she wanted was, anyway, we had her feel the hostility and everything, and she like was able to release it, and then the Monday following, and for months, it's been like everybody gets along fine.
Yeah.
It's like everybody is like back to being kind of a cohesive family unit.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times what's plugged up in me kind of keeps other people plugged up as well, right?
Right.
We're having a lot of kind of unexplainables. What is the best word I can use?
Well, yeah, it's like going through this. I always like to try to wrap something up and get my head around it logically, and the Cogno movement. Had I not experienced it for myself, I can't wrap my head around it. And it's kind of like other modalities that I've looked into or learned about, but there is a realm of healing and working with the human body that we are just starting to really embark on. And it's stuff that, like you were talking about Chinese acupuncture, or meridian points. This stuff is ancient, and today we're starting to be able to look at it with science, and they're starting to merge, and we're starting to see that these are very real ways to heal the body, mind, soul, however you want to look at it. And what I really appreciate about this is that it's so. I'm not trying to undermine what it can do, but it's so simple. Some of the most effective things in our lives have to be simple, and so I guess where I'm going with this is, as and I'm thinking about it and thinking about the audience as they're watching, is they're probably wondering right now, do I have to work with somebody, or can I just buy the ball and do it at home myself?
So yes, you can. They're available on Amazon.com. You can just go online and get one. There's a website and a password that comes with it. Mm-hmm. With the password, you can just go in and watch the video. It actually counts you down and do the exercise with you. Cool. There are people with the most incredible stories that just start doing it. They watch the videos, they do it. They can do it by themselves, and they will get results. Yeah. Just focusing on the problem and do the exercise. Right. And by coming to a seminar or working, there are practitioners now. Mm-hmm. We have I don't know, we probably have 25 or so certified practitioners around the United States that have gone through extensive training that they know all kinds of tips and tricks, which can really unleash things. They're creating amazing things every day. Yeah. So you can go on there, and let's say, what, I'm not a person who likes to try to figure things out myself. You can go to one of them, and they'll just do it with you right then and there. You knock out the issue with one of them, and that's really an awesome way that you can be assured of getting the best possible results.
Is there a place that a person could go to find a Cognomovement practitioner?
Yeah, there's on the Cognomovement.com, okay. And then they have practitioner, so they're listed there, all there. There's New Jersey, Massachusetts, Chicago, Oregon, California. They're all over, spread out. There's also a place that you can come and actually get your training and become a practitioner, which it's so fun because you're able to solve things that are just, unexplainable.
That's excellent. Okay, so how about, is there any other places? So we have cognomovement.com. Is there a way that people can get in touch with you if they wanted to ask any questions? And if there is, where would that be?
Yeah, so if they want any questions, it's billmckennaevents@gmail.com. You can just email me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. There's YouTube. You can watch a bunch of YouTubes online. There's people there that are showing what happened to them, and they're craving for Chick-fil-A, or their Coca-Cola craving, or you name it,
Right.
or they have anger about, something. There's all kinds of things that they can check out there.
Okay. And for the audience, I will leave links for all of these down below in the description, so you can just click down there and go check out the channel, learn more about Cognomovement. And then, so Bill, I like to ask a couple of questions when we're wrapping up an interview. And the first question is there something that I should have asked you that I haven't? Does anything come to mind?
No, I think we were able to get it out, on the basics of what this is.
Yeah.
There's many more things that I teach people. I have, as part of my seminars, I talk about the secrets of the masters, and those are just tips and tricks to help people with an issue or problem and get a result nearly, instantly. Do you have any particular, as you go through your body, is there any particular point of pain here? Do you have, like, right now?
At this moment, I'm feeling pretty good. Actually, I do want to share with you, though, this morning. Okay, so over the last, 3 days now, I developed a sinus infection. And so I have all of my natural remedies that I normally go through. And this morning I said, why haven't I been using the Cognomovement ball? So this morning I went through it for, I don't know, probably about 10 minutes. And I literally, after I did it, I literally felt my sinuses open up. So yes, I dig the Cognomovement ball, and it will be residing in my office for future use.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. So, I want to ask the last question, and this is I ask every guest this. Over your lifetime, you have developed a very useful set of tools and wisdom through all of your experiences, and what I like to do is just pull out a little bit of that wisdom that you have tucked away. If you could go back and talk to yourself 10 years ago, what advice would you give that version of Bill McKenna?
Well, for me, my awakening, if you will, happened, prior to that.
Yeah.
So I'll answer this in two ways. So pre-awakening, what I would probably tell myself is just one quick tip is forgiveness. Forgiveness. It is extremely powerful. And just to show your guests just how powerful this is, I'll walk you through something real quick. And this is kind of goes to the secrets of the masters. You right now have maybe some teeth pain, pain or something that's in your body, hand pain, issues somewhere. Whatever that is for you, your viewer,
Yeah.
is to touch the tooth or the part that hurts or whatever, and simply ask the question. Close your eyes and ask the question: who do I need to forgive? Who do I need to forgive? Who do I need to forgive? And I know you don't want to do it. Hey, I get it. I'm the poster child for resentment. So even though you don't want to do it, just for 3 minutes, forgive whoever that is that you popped up in your brain that you said when you touched the tooth or the issue or that sort of thing. Just 100% forgive them completely, not a little bit, all of it. You have to do this sincerely. And
so not with conditions, like I'll forgive them if that SOB does. No conditions.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know what? they ain't going to do nothing. They're going to be just the same. But you know what? I release you 100%, as if, I am completely letting go of this. Right? And I mean completely. Yeah. And then the next person that maybe comes to mind related to it. And what you'll see is that the pain will go from a 10 down to a 5, down to a 2, down to 0. Just keep forgiving, and related to that particular area of that issue, right? And notice what happens. So I would give this as kind of one of the secrets of the masters type deal, and to try it out. I'm sure down in the comments below this video, there's going to be some people that are blown away because it's amazing. Yeah. So that would be the first thing. And then the other thing is, post-awakening, right? Is that to stay grounded. Going through an awakening is a extraordinarily difficult thing to have happen. People have awakenings to different degrees. Mine was severe. But staying, I would probably go back and say, hey, Bill, stay grounded. Concentrate on the root things of daily life that you need to do, because when these type of things happen to people, then life as they know it can collapse. Yeah.
And you said to stay grounded, to concentrate on the root things. So that's the core important things inside of a person's life.
Yeah. Just the basics. The basics. The basics of the material existence on this plane. Yeah. Keep it together. And interestingly, a technique to do that is to stay connected and grateful for the things of this plane, the earth, the water, the food you eat, and stay connected to them. And that very easy way to do that is stay kind of in nature. Go walk on the beach. Go walk, in the forest without your shoes on, or those sorts of things, and connect. Yeah, it'll help you to stay connected here and to not have your life go kind of out of control, if you will.
Well, and I think they've shown that with, like you're talking about, gratefulness, gratitude, connecting with nature, it literally changes the neurochemistry inside of our brains on a real level. So that's something to look at. Bill, I so appreciate you coming on here, sharing your wisdom, talking about Cognomovement and what you've created. I think that it's fantastic, and I wish this business and your business of Cognomovement great success in the future. And I think that you're going to change a lot of people's lives and help a lot of people live much better on this plane and in this world. So thank you for sharing your wisdom, guys. Forgiveness, stay grounded, and the body expresses emotion that we can't process, and you take care of that with a Cognomovement ball. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.